Come on, Jay! We knew the timing of the last swim meet was going to be the day before the biopsy.
And Dr. Greenwood was a little hesitant because the tumor could rupture. He wasn't supposed to be running or jumping. He was on crutches at that point. She reluctantly agreed for his mental health. We knew he needed to get in the water and swim and compete. So everyone's already ahead of him. He dives in off the side. He catches up to them.
He won the race.
He won the whole race.
It was just magical.
I had equal amounts of fear and anxiety watching him and praying to God that this was not his last swimming. So we're the family. We have Charlie, who is in 9th grade at Atlee High School, and Gavin is a 5th grader at Cool Spring Elementary, and Luca is a 5-year-old doing preschool at home with mom this year. And we're Jenny and Russ.
So Gavin, he's very active. He's into sports, baseball, swimming, and then just any other active 10-year-old thing you can imagine. He started to complain of having pain in his leg, his right leg, but it would come and go. He would have moments where it hurt, and then an hour later, he was running around like nothing was wrong. But after a couple of weeks, it started to get a little worse. We came home from a vacation the first week of July, and that was the most pain he had been, where he was having difficulty walking even.
We all thought it was growing pains or maybe a pulled muscle. So we went to the doctor that day, just a pediatrician, and she said, same thing, probably growing pains. Go home and rest for a week, no swimming, no baseball. Put your leg up, ice it. And by the next day, it was so swollen. That's when we called the pediatrician back, and she said, I want you to go to the ER. Let's start at Kid Med. We had no idea at that point that it was anything more than, we thought maybe an infection or, something that would be a quick fix. The way that they looked at me, they knew. I didn't know at the time. They looked terrified, and it terrified me. They didn't tell us why we were going to the ER. They just said, we see something, we don't want to say what it is because we don't want to scare you. We just want you to go and make sure that everything's okay. By 2 a.m., we knew that there was a mass in his leg.
You hear the word mass or tumor, and you immediately sort of freak out a little bit. When you first said that to me over the phone, I was like, geez, that's scary. It's very, very hard to feel like you don't have any control. To see your kid hurting and having to go through such a difficult, life-altering experience, it's really, really hard.
It was terrifying. I remember going in the bathroom and just looking and praying to God, and I remember saying I can't do this. This can't be what this is. And I remember a calm feeling though of you can and you will, and I'm here because we're very, through this especially, have leaned very heavily on our faith and knowing that God is with us and there is a plan for Gavin to do something great with this. And I tell him all the time, there is a reason for this. There's a bigger reason. There has to be. Once we got the Ewing sarcoma diagnosis, the next day, August 2nd, was his first treatment. And Katie Barber, this is one of those examples of how Ask knows what we need before we need it, because we didn't know that morning of the first chemo, we were going to have to hear about every side effect that could happen to him. And I think that was the hardest days. But Katie Barber snatched up Gavin with a smile and said, let's go play Uno. And I think that was the first day that we met Rich and Anna and Leanne, and Katie had given us a tour of the fishbowl, and they were all so happy and loving each other, and they were this big happy family.
That's another way that Ask and people like Katie Barber knew what we needed before we did. Because we got that tour, and Katie and Leanne were so bubbly and personable that first time we met them, the next time we go into clinic, Gavin was already comfortable.
I wanted to try a jalapeno.
Uh-huh. Probably not the best idea when you're in.
Probably. My dad said the seeds are what makes it spicy, so he picked one out with 2 seeds, and
did it light you up?
Yeah.
Did you have tears?
Now we go to battle. Now we go and kick cancer's butt. And he loves when people would say that at the beginning. They'd send him notes saying, kick cancer's butt. And he'd be like, yeah. How do you tell your perfect 10-year-old who has grown up playing baseball and travel baseball with his buddies, he might, that he can't keep his leg, essentially. We wanted to make sure if we were gonna have a plan that it was gonna be the right plan for Gavin. He knew there were a couple of options. He could get a metal rod in his leg. He would never be able to run again with that. And there was a lot of risk of infection. There was a second opinion we got about putting a cadaver bone in his femur, but it was too close to the growth plate.
And where the femur and the tibia meet.
And then a full amputation.
Full amputation.
I can't find the words. I'm praying that God will give me the words, and I can't find them to tell him this. Because at that point, after chemo started, he didn't have any more pain. So it almost made it harder. To him, chemo's working.
Yeah,
I'm not in pain. Why would I have to take my leg?
Every instinct he had is, I'm pain-free. I should be able to take off running and go do what I want, climb trees and jump around.
Knew that that was gonna get him back running and playing with his friends, so let's do it, and he knew that he had to have a surgery. And so if that was an option that gave him his life back, then that was. Hello, I couldn't keep up with him. He's so excited. They've always known what we needed before we knew what we needed, and what was going to happen before we knew what was going to happen, because this isn't the world we live in. We didn't know how we were going to make ends meet, to be honest, with 3 kids. And they jumped in and said, we'll pay your mortgage, we'll pay your bills. When we had so much uncertainty, when we were switching insurance, Anna, again, as soon as I said something about, insurance, she said, oh, well, let me help you, and jumps right in. And when we needed a tree even down, Billy Davis jumped in from Arborscapes through Ask, and has just been this light in our life. By the time he left, he had texted me a swing he wanted to get for Gavin and put up, and he wanted to bring the bucket truck and make sure we do it on a day when he's home so he can see it. I haven't seen him smile that big in months. He was so happy. John is another person who just jumps in for our homebound. He will come up to me in the hospital and say, hey, sign off on this. We'll get it up the homebound because you have to do it every 9 weeks. And hey, how's homebound doing? And our homebound's been phenomenal because his teachers are just angels. But John helps get that paperwork through and makes sure that that's one less thing on our plates right now. When I think of Ask, I think of relationships.
I didn't realize at the time that they were already forming the relationships that we didn't know we needed with them.
They've become our community. No one wants to live in this world, but once you're there, you need the support and you need to be able to lean on people. Some days when we go to the clinic, there's no other kids there. Some days it's packed, and some days there's no one else there, and that can feel like you are the only one going through it. But there's power in knowing that you're not the only one and that you're not alone, and that's what Ask gives him. Changes who you are. We're all gonna be different people because of it. But I think we'll be better. I think that we'll be stronger as a family and stronger in our community, and we'll be able to give back to our community because of the way that they've given to us. He deserves everything. He deserves everything, and that's what we want to give him.